Okay, the next, if you click next there in the module, it should bring you to a page that has an exercise, and then click here with a Nearpod. Go ahead and click on that link if you would. And I'm going to go to the live session. And so what's going to happen is you will see next. I control the slides as far as going forward and things of that nature. So all you do is sit there and read the slides or on the overhead. There will be some interactive stuff as we go along that we'll be doing. And then your take-home assignment will also have another Nearpod in it. And on that one, I have in there a podcast to help you on with BootStrap getting started, and on C9 getting started with PHP MySQL. But tonight I thought we'd start with just what BootStrap is. This was in your reading in the About menu of the website for BootStrap. It was created by a designer, and just kind of note these points as we talk about them, because there's a 5-question quiz at the end, not real difficult, but just to kind of assess that you were alive during the discussion. And so it was created, believe it or not, by a Twitter developer. It's actually originally was called BootStrap Twitter Boot, or Boot Twitter. It was developed in-house by a developer for some projects they were working on just for themselves and their team, and it sprouted from there. As far as questions go, if you want to go ahead and answer the question on this slide, have you ever heard of BootStrap prior to the class? You can go ahead and share that. And most of you had, and I know I queried most of you already the first week. And that goes to what the results are here. 66% no, 22%. 11% yes, and no answers to 22%. So 22% don't care. It should be on your screen, actually, the ability. Yeah. Go to week 2 exercise, and then click on the link in the exercise. And then it should go right to this slide for the poll. You'll have to put in your name first. That's the only required field, I believe. There you go. There you go. That's one. Thank you. Anybody else help on that? All right, cool. So that shows the pretty much the results from last week. Here's a number of websites using BootStrap, 6,647,000. Pretty high number, especially since it's only been around since 2011. So that's pretty, as far as embedded. Actually, the date of origin, you will need this for the quiz, is 2010. But 2011 is whenever it really boomed. So 5 years, basically. So it started at Twitter in 2010, mid-2010, by the Twitter handle MDO and FAT. Prior to being an open source framework, BootStrap was also known as Twitter Blueprint. A few months into development, Twitter held its first Hack Week, and the project exploded as developers of all skill levels jumped in without any external guidance. And this is a key part of BootStrap. This is a really key part of it, I believe, the success of it. Without any external guidance, it served as a style guide for internal tools development of the company for over a year before its public release, and continues to do so. So once developers like yourself got a hold of BootStrap and they started looking at it, they're like, wow, we can actually do a lot of stuff here. And you start doing it. They start playing with it. And that's why it is so popular. So originally, it was released on Friday, August 19, 2011. Uh, it was actually created on 2010, just note that. We've seen over 20 releases, including two major releases, rewrites in version 2 and 3. BootStrap 2, they added responsive functionality to the entire framework, meaning it would render according to the device it was loaded on. So whether it be a phone, a tablet, a computer, desktop, laptop, it would auto render menus and everything using CSS, starting in that version 3, and then, or version 2. So it optimized the style sheet, and building on that, with BootStrap 3, they rewrote the library once more to make it responsible by default with a mobile first approach, because the dynamics in businesses and actually consumers in the last 2 years have changed from the majority of users that view websites view it from a mobile device. 70-some% of users view websites on a daily basis from mobile devices, more so than desktops or laptops. And when I say mobile, I mean tablets are included in that, phones are included in that. So because of that, they optimized they optimized the CSS to make it very responsive to regardless of what the device was. Now, if you've played around with any CSS with mobile and JavaScript, you used to have to, especially with JavaScript, you had to kind of determine what the device was first by a couple of things. One was the OS it was running. Okay, so like for instance, with JavaScript, you can determine OS by reading the client itself. So if I noticed with JavaScript the client OS was Windows 7, we would render it the website for a desktop laptop. If we noticed it was, say, iOS or Android, we would then render it for mobile. Make sense? And push it to that CSS for those three entities. So the way it works now is it dynamically, through CSS and JavaScript and jQuery, determines a device not, or determines the screen size not by the device, but by the screen size only. So depending on the width of the browser, so you can be on a computer desktop and change the width of a BootStrap, and it'll mobilize it with menus and everything. And you probably played with that. Maybe you will be denied anyway. And that was the first time that we had such a foundation, and that's where BootStrap helped many developers in having that, because we'd spend a lot of time on getting the website to render properly on multiple different devices. Well, now we have a tool through BootStrap to where it does it out of the box, regardless of what theme you use. It does it automatically for you. And so it saves a lot of time for developers, because we can now focus on design and focus on content versus rendering, if that makes sense. And so and that's a big deal. And also the fact that during the hack week, there was nobody said, "Hey guys, I want you to look at this code that we built and just start kind of like playing around with it and seeing what you can do with it." No, it automatically just started playing with it. It started building and messing with CSS and seeing what they could do, and it just exploded from there. So here's some technologies used in BootStrap. HTML5, which HTML5 for the most part is used in most all new websites, because all your new computers in the last year and a half, and mobile devices all function upon, and web browsers function upon HTML5. And HTML5 brings a functionality that we didn't have up to that point. And you would have to, like an example would be, before HTML5, to validate an input on a text field, on a form, okay? You'd have to use a couple things. One is a JavaScript function to determine validation of input, that they put something in the text box, number one. Number two, what is that something? Maybe it's numeric only, maybe it's alphanumeric, maybe it's alphanumeric special character. All those had to be created in a really long and ugly JavaScript function. Now, for validation, let's say of numbers, right? With HTML5, you just put in the tag for the input text for a text box on a form, the word numbers. That's it. And it now validates that only numbers are allowed in that text box. You want it to be required, hit the space bar after numbers and put in the word required. Now the person can't submit that form until they've entered in some content. Not only that, but it goes one step further. It actually puts in messages for the users for that required field saying you need to fill content for this field. This field is required before you can go any further without any coding at all. You're just typing in the word required. And so those of you that remember playing with CSS or JavaScript and validation possibly in some of your other classes, those days are gone with HTML5. All modern browsers in the last 2 years are now 100% HTML compliant. Safari, Firefox, Chrome, IE, and the other one that's not so popular but is still around, which slips my mind. Somebody help me. Opera. Yes, Opera's the one I was thinking of. Opera's also, it was actually the first one HTML5 compliant, Opera was. And so all modern web browsers now are HTML5 compliant. So HTML5 is a part of the BootStrap technology. CSS is the next one, and you're familiar with that. It has 2 CSS files for the most part on the BootStrap theme, style CSS and some other another CSS file for guiding fonts and things of that nature. And then jQuery is needed for JavaScript, and jQuery is has to be embedded in the is embedded in all these web browsers I just mentioned, and JavaScript functions faster and more efficient with jQuery. And then multiple ways to install BootStrap. The way we're going to install it tonight is by uploading the actual BootStrap theme into C9 workspace, but you can install it via command line in any web server with just one command line. It'll install BootStrap for you. You can even install BootStrap inline on a website by just calling out the BootStrap entities without installing BootStrap at all. By just calling out the global BootStrap, they call them CDNs. So you don't even have to upload BootStrap to a site. You just insert the BootStrap CDN into any website. And now you have all the JavaScript, all the CSS needed for that site to become a BootStrap-enabled site. So pretty powerful in and of itself. And like I said, all web shops now are using BootStrap, and pretty much any new website you've been on in the last year has a BootStrap type of look and feel. So how much does it cost? It's totally free. It's open source. And so open source meaning millions of developers literally use it and submit bugs or submit additions to the kernel of BootStrap, and then every once in a while do revisions of BootStrap and updates of BootStrap, which I think they're getting ready to go into version 4 and already looking at version 5. And so that's a big plus for developers of all types, whether it be non-for-profits, whether it be for-profit businesses, Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies, because of the open source functionality. It's also less susceptible for hacking. Being a programmer as well in the mobile and Windows side of things, platforms that are open source in nature aren't hacked as much as platforms that are closed source in nature. What I mean by that is, let's look at the operating systems between Windows and Apple and Linux, those 3 operating systems. So if you look at the demographic for Windows, Linux, and Mac, all 3 One of those I mentioned is a requirement to have antivirus and malware apps installed. Which one is that, you think? Yeah, it's Windows. But out of the three I just mentioned, which one is closed source, do you think? Closed source meaning developers have no access to the code for the operating system. What is it? Nope, Apple's open. Yep. Mm-hmm. The base of Apple's core OS is Linux and Unix. Yep, yeah, it is. Windows is the only one that's closed, totally 100% closed source, and it's the one hacked. Same thing though with BootStrap. Websites are built upon BootStrap. They've had, I don't have the graph here, but they have did a study of the last year that sites are built upon BootStrap are less susceptible to being hacked and being defaced by hackers, like the groups like Anonymous and other hacking groups that will basically have challenges of how many sites they can deface in a month or something. So that's kind of interesting, I think, to note. So how do you use BootStrap? I'm glad you asked. First, you got to choose a theme. That's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to play with the theme just real quick, but you'll have between now and Sunday to choose, spend some real time to look at the themes and download a theme. And then you'll upload your theme to a web server. We're going to be using the C9 site, but it can upload to any web server that is, the one that's going to work the best on, by the way, on web servers, if you were to build one, would be a Linux web server, specifically a web server built upon Ubuntu. Because if you note on the C9 site, it's an Ubuntu site, web service host. Twitter has all Linux-based servers. They host all of their stuff from as well. Linux has built into it in the core kernel jQuery, JavaScript, and all the libraries needed for BootStrap to run no problem. If you install on a Windows server, you will need to install jQuery because it's not going to be default on the Windows server, and that's it, and then it should run fine. But we're going to be using C9, which is everything's all built in already for us as far as the server it goes. But I know some of you might be interested in maybe doing this on your own outside of C9, and the Ubuntu web server or Red Hat web server will be the one I'd recommend to do this with. And I think I mentioned last week, did I not, that you can go to Barnes and get a Linux DVD or whatever and start playing with some other Linux distros. And then finally, so you choose a theme, you download a theme, you upload it to your server, the BootStrap, and then you begin manipulating that theme. What I mean by manipulation is, well, first of all, content for sure you're going to manipulate, right? You're going to play with that a little bit tonight and for your homework this week. You'll manipulate it to fit your needs, basically, the content. Then the CSS, you can also manipulate to fit your needs. You might want to change the color scheme. You might want to change the fonts that are used. You might want to change the Ahref link colors. You might, might be a number of things you might want to change, possibly. And more than likely there will be. So that's when you'll bring in your skills for that you already have of CSS and just basic HTML editing. So what we're going to do in this exercise, the next few slides, is we're going to choose a BootStrap theme in the next few minutes. We'll give you about 5 minutes to choose one. And then once you choose it, I want you to download it to your Mac that you're in front of. So when I go to this next slide, it should have goes right to a page to where I believe you guys on your end should be able to click on a button or something. Is that right? Yeah. To launch a website, and it should launch this website here, which is the one you're going to be using for your homework this week. But I want you just to choose a theme real quick. We're just going to play around with one. So this isn't one for your actual website you're going to be building this week. This is just for in-class purposes. So once you find a theme that you want, one of the ways you can play around with this, by the way, is there is a download option, or preview and download, I believe is a button underneath one of them. What I recommend to do is click on the preview button and preview it, preview the BootStrap theme, for the next 5 minutes. And when you find one that you like, download it. So I'll give you about 5 minutes. That should be enough time, I think. So we're just going to be playing around with it anyway. So you're not like, set in stone here on the theme. So just find one that you really like, preview a number of them, and then click the download button when you decide. And if you're not familiar with working with Macs, when you do click the download button, it'll download it into a download folder on your Mac. And you can either move it to your desktop or you can just leave it in the download folder. Either one's going to work fine. And the ones you're looking at is the most popular themes that people use every day. Those 7 million people that have built websites and businesses. These are the themes that they start with, basically. The most popular that's rose to the top. And then once you get done doing that, you can go back to the Nearpod page, and there's a quiz on there, or a poll, basically not a quiz, a poll. And we're going to see what everybody chose as far as what theme it was you chose. It doesn't have to be exact spelling either. Just kind of get a feel for what everybody kind of ends up choosing for your theme once you chose one. You don't know what the name of it is? You don't know the name? You can actually go to the tab. Can you go to the tab there? It's all right. If you pick your mouse and go up higher on your Mac, yeah, and hit the little green button there, and then you'll be able to minimize everything, go to your downloads folder, because it'll be in that, right? Did you already download it? Yeah, so it's grayscale when you download it. See where it says grayscale? And make sure I hit save. Okay. So it's grayscale is the one you chose. So when you get through downloading yours, just go back to the Nearpod page, and there's a little poll on which theme you chose and why you chose it. Again, I don't need a novel here, just kind of, like the colors, whatever, layout was cool. I closed my eyes and just clicked the screen, whatever it was your logic was on choosing it, that's fine. Did you have a question, you said? You all right?
No,
You figured it out? Okay.
down why.
Oh, okay. No, if you didn't do why, don't worry about it. No biggie. So let's see. Freelancers winning out so far as on the top here. Got freelancer, grayscale, agency, stylish portfolio. Those are all great, by the way. All do have a different look and feel. Freelancer is, more minimalist look, but manipulation of contents, more of a free flow content. Grayscale, minimalist as well, but kind of a modern look on it. And agency, as said, the background colors appeal, Blake. And then the stylish portfolio's got a lot of cool styles in it, actually, to showcase the theme. And when you do download it, the next thing we'll be doing is moving your files into C9. So if you've already answered the poll and you've downloaded already, you can create a new tab in your browser and go to your C9 website, your c9.io website, and log in. Because the next thing we'll be doing is creating a workspace here in just a second. But just go ahead and log in. That would expedite the next few slides that we're going to be going over. So once you've answered the poll on why you chose the theme and what theme you chose and why, go ahead and go to the c9.io site, log in, and just kind of hang tight. Another freelance theme came in. Waiting on a couple more before we go on. So make sure, again, if you're finished, go to the c9.io site, and I'll walk you through in the next couple slides how to create what theme I want you to use for your C9, what technologies, and then how I want you to name everything. Anybody do anything special for Easter weekend? No?
Yeah, double shift.
What is it?
Double shift.
Yeah, double shift. There you go. Woo!
Is that this weekend?
Yeah, for Good Friday, and then Friday, and then weekend. Campus is closed Friday, by the way. Do what now? Yeah, yeah, exactly. I don't think there is many classes on Friday. I don't believe so. Anybody have a class on Friday? I don't think there is. I have a few Saturday classes, but
Just write
write it in and then hit enter or submit button or whatever's there in that form, and then that should be it. Okay, you guys got creative. That's a good one. And who else am I waiting on? Everybody submit theirs already? I'm waiting on anybody? I don't want to go forward before I. All right, cool. I'm going to go ahead and go forward then. All right, so here's what I want you to do on your Bootstrap site or on your C9 site. In this slide here, we're going to create a new workspace. I'll do it with you on the overhead. The naming convention for your workspace is going to be your last name, no space, test site. Last name, no space, test site. We're going to choose a PHP MySQL type. So if you look on the overhead, I'll go to mine real quick. Once you've logged into C9, you have the opportunity to create a new workspace. You'll hit the plus button. So go ahead and click on the plus button in the C9 website. Am I going too fast? Anybody still logging in? I don't want to rush it. All right. Are you okay? All right, cool. So click on the plus sign on create a new workspace. And for the workspace name, make sure everything's lowercase, by the way. I didn't put that in the slide. Everything has to be lowercase on your workspaces. So your last name, lowercase, and then test site, all lowercase as well. So mine's Conkle test site, all one word, no spaces. Then you don't need a description. Scroll down, make sure public is state selected by default. And we're going to select the PHP, Apache, and MySQL one. So the one that has the icon, the purple circle icon that says PHP in it, that's the one we want and we'll be using. And then once you've done those things, you've named it, the workspace name, last name, test site, selected PHP, MySQL, then click the Create Workspace button. And what it's going to do here is render that site, create it, and you'll see the little time bar go across. Just sit patiently until it's finished. Shouldn't take too long. And this is what you should see. It says, hi there, welcome to Cloud9 IDE. To get started, we created a small hello program for you. We're going to skip that, but they do this with every one of the Bootstrap workspaces or every one of the work sites. They'll give you a beginning file, and if we go and click on that hello world.php, let's go ahead and do that. Here's a hello world built for PHP. The syntax in PHP is already in there. You'll notice the coding for PHP just to kind of help you. We're not going to really go into exhaustive lengths on PHP, but I teach that online in the fall. But the tag for PHP to begin a PHP page is lesser than symbol question mark PHP, all one word, all lowercase, okay, on one line. It also ends with a question mark greater than symbol. And then everything in between that is your PHP code. Now, PHP code is rendered on the server side, all right? Meaning it's going to be rendered, we'll see in just a second, when we see this page run, this hello page run, we'll see it rendered when we look at the source of the page. It'll look just like basic HTML code, right? When we look at the source there in a second. We won't see the PHP code because the PHP code is ran totally on the server. That's why it's called server-side script. JavaScript, on the other hand, is ran totally upon the browser, all right? CSS, all right? Browser as well. You can view CSS within a browser, no problem. HTML, you can view on a code, when you view source of a web page. But client-side or server-side scripting is beneficial in coding for a couple things. One is it secures passwords or paths to things you don't want public to see. Make sense? An example would be, say you had an e-commerce page, right? And you had people buying stuff on that page. You wouldn't want it to be in basic HTML and JavaScript because anybody and your brother could look at the source code of your page by just going to view source and see everything, right? The path to your bank page, bank account, the username, the password, not good, all right? Make sense? So server-side scripting is always used on web pages that need security, number one, but also server-side scripting is beneficial in the fact that it renders sometimes quicker in some cases, a lot of cases, than JavaScript, because JavaScript's rendering upon the browser and dependent upon the browser. And if the browser is not JavaScript enabled, it can't run it. Now, granted, all modern browsers, like I talked about earlier, are supposedly ready for JavaScript, but PHP is going to help us many times. And on a PHP website or web server, we can host both PHP pages, HTML pages, JS pages, and use CSS just like in any normal website. So I've talked long enough. What I want you to do is I want you to go to line 7 there on the echo command where it says hello world from cloud 9. And what we're going to do is we're going to render, put some text in here that's different just to play around with it. I want you to put in this, replace that yellow text with this. This is my first PHP web page. Make sure it keeps the little single quotes on both sides of the text string, and make sure you have the semicolon on the end of that search string. Now, while you're doing that, I'm going to talk about some of the things on this line. The echo command definition is a lot like it sounds. It's echoing what you're getting ready to put to the right of that echo command to the browser. It's going to render it in HTML for the user to see. Okay, you don't see it yet, but it will. All right. So anything you put in the echo command is going to be echoed out to the screen. And you can build into a PHP code in between the PHP beginning and end tag. You can put regular HTML if you wanted to. You would have to put some close tags in there that you'll learn about, wrap tags, things of that nature. But once you put that code in there and that changed in there, what I want you to do is go to the File menu, click Save, or shortcuts, which I like. You can just do a Command S on your keyboard, the Command button on your Mac keyboard, and the letter S will save it. And then before we can run PHP, well, let's just do it without running it first, without running the server. Let's see what happens. Okay, so if we go to the Preview button in C9, and let's just say Preview running application. Well, right now it says there's no server running, right, on mine. Does your guys say the same? All right, let's try this. In that little view, there's a little button here, by the way. If you hover over that tab, a little X. If you'll click on that X, it's going to close out what we just did. Now go back to Preview and go to the raw content of hello.php, and it's going to download it. So what I want you to do now is basically when it should have prompted a download here, like mine did right here. If you'll go over here to this arrow right there where my mouse is, well, actually you can't see it on that browser on the overhead, right here. See a little arrow there where it says pop out into new window? Let's click on that, see what happens. It's going to try to download it again. So basically the reason I wanted to show you that was when you preview a PHP page, that when the server's not running, it just tries to download it is what it's going to try to do because it needs a server to run. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this tab again. Now I'm going to I want everybody to click on the Run Project button. And notice at the bottom of your browser some stuff going on here. See where it says starting Apache, HTTPD, serving, concal test site, -concal, chucon.c9users-io, starting Apache. What that's telling us is it's starting the Apache web server, which is required for PHP websites or pages to render properly, number one. Number two, Apache web server is also needed for any server-side scripting PHP site. And some popular brands of that I'd recommend is XAMPP is a popular development brand if you want to do this at home outside of C9.io. Some of you might have used XAMPP before in the past, but this is one I like to use when I teach PHP. Just Google XAMPP and there's a whole bunch of different binaries you can download. There's a binary for Windows, binary for Mac, binary for Linux. Once you download XAMPP on your Mac PC at home and install it, you run, it has a couple buttons you can run, but you need to run Apache and then for sure to do what we're doing tonight. If you want a database, you have to run MySQL too. So XAMPP has included in it an Apache web server client and a MySQL database. So now that we have it's running, and we know it's running because it says stop up there, right? If you don't see it running, you're not going to be able to test it. So make sure when you do PHP testing, when you're playing with this at home this week and from now on, that it's running. Then we're going to go to the preview tab now again and say preview running application. And it'll go to the page like mine is, and I want to click on the hello world.php. The reason it didn't go to an actual page is we didn't have like a index.php or a default.php. If we would have had that named, it would have went right to that page automatically. Just like in websites you guys have done already, maybe, you're familiar with the default home pages of websites, right? Index, default, same in PHP. So now we got to click on the hello world.php. When we do, we see that text that we typed in, render in PHP to HTML. Now I want you to take and make sure, and let's click on that little arrow icon again to pop it out into a new window. And we will have to click on the hello world.php again. And what I want to do, is view the source code of this page. So I'm in Chrome. Are you guys in Chrome? Or using Firefox or something? They're all a little different on how to view the source, but hopefully you know how to view the source on your web page. If you don't, I'll come around and help you. But on Chrome, you go to View, Developer, View Source. And that's the actual source the end user sees. You'll notice they don't see any of the PHP code. And the reason they don't is it's rendered on the server. It's rendered on the server side. So there's where the security lies in for developers. Make sense? That's why 78% of websites today are built upon PHP and not just plain HTML. Make sense? Now, they have a lot of HTML5 included in that, a lot of JavaScript included in that, a lot of CSS included in that. And why do you think that's needed for PHP sites off the top of your head? PHP doesn't really have a great design side, all right? So why do you think HTML5 is needed, JavaScript's needed, and CSS needed on PHP websites?
To be inclusive of other programming languages?
Well, yeah, but we'll go a little further with it. Keep going with that thought.
Or to be creative, change text.
Yeah. To make it look aesthetic, right? To make the beauty aesthetics look good, to make the layout look good. Because PHP in and of itself is a language to drive output and data. That's it. Yeah, that's it. So I can give you tons of, nails and foundation to build a house, but HTML5 and CSS is the boards, the walls, the ceiling, the roof. You know what I'm saying? It's the foundation. You wouldn't have a house without foundation and nails, and electricity. We could say that would be PHP, but everything else is needed to beautify it would be HTML5, CSS. That makes sense? So when I say PHP is the #1 web language, it doesn't mean or throw out HTML5 or CSS or JavaScript, because it's also included in these websites I'm mentioning, the 76% of websites that are built on PHP. But the beauty of PHP is not only does it render server-side script and it's hidden from the user like we've just seen when you view the source. Number two, though, is it's the only web language that lets you build what's called modular blocks, is what I call them. What I mean by that is everybody in here could build a separate PHP something. It could be a message board. It could be a mapping board. It could be a recipe board. It could be how to build a list. List goes on and on, right? And I could collect all your PHP files from you, and with one line of code, insert them wherever I want to on my web page, dynamically, and then when you update it dynamically, and as each developer in here updates your little module, we don't have to, go through and change every web page. You're just changing your module. Does that make sense? And so in PHP shops, developers develop on little modules all the time, and these modules can then be reused over and over again, and that's where the power of PHP comes in. The modules can be e-commerce in nature, message boards in nature, building list nature, in nature. The list goes on to help define dynamic sites and with data and content, basically, right? But it's not a wrapper that makes it look nice. It's just the engine behind what makes it look nice, right? So, everybody able to view your source, by the way, on your page? Okay, so let's go back to the C9 test page.
So our code, source code, we're supposed to see, right?
Yeah, you were, as a developer, you're going to see the PHP code. End user, client, the world will only see, if they view your source code, will only view the rendered HTML. You'll notice in the C9 code, there is HTML code at the top, HTML body, and then end HTML body. You'll also notice in the source, you have that same code, but all you have for the kickout is the text that you wrote out for your echo, but not the PHP tag or the echo command. It's stripped. It's not there.
It's showing the entire thing.
Do I know?
Mine is showing the entire thing.
You're viewing the actual file.
Okay.
Yeah, you're viewing the actual file. So let's go back to your, click on the hello world.php.
So if I go here to Firefox, source code,
Yeah, I'm gonna go and X out 0. There you go. And then up there, and click on that. Now, if you go to try to view that text, web developer source. Okay. That's what that world will see, right? And the reason you could see the code earlier was actually on that machine that you were on, the developer was on. Okay, so let's go back to the C9 site, the test site that we were on. We'll go ahead and close any tabs open except for, actually let's close the Hello World tab as well. And now what we're going to do is upload your BootStrap stuff to your workspace. Now there's a couple ways to do it. The easiest way to do it is drag and dropping stuff. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take and resize your browser on your computer to where it's about half the screen, roughly about like that. That's fine. It doesn't have to be exactly half, but about half the screen would be great before you do anything. Also, what I want you to do, once you've resized the browser where it's about half the screen, is on the right side of the screen, I want you to bring up the folder of the BootStrap, the contents of the folder of the BootStrap that you just downloaded. Okay, so I'll go into one called Casual, Business Casual Bootstraps. Here I'll play with. So I've opened up my Business Casual Bootstrap that I'm playing with, and I want to see all the contents of that folder on the right side, okay, before we go any further. So left side, resize the browser to about 50% of your monitor. Right side, bring up the contents of the folder of Bootstrap. Make sense? Anybody need help on that? Now I want you to do this on the Bootstrap side. I want you to go to the File menu and go to Upload Local Files. And here's where we're going to do some dragging and dropping. You'll notice it says drag and drop files here, or you can select them manually. The easiest way is just going to go over here to the right side on my Bootstrap stuff. Select everything on the right side. I can do a Command A, by the way, over here on the Mac keyboard. It'll select everything, just like Control A on Windows. Once I select everything, I'm going to click anywhere that's a highlighted file is at, that has a blue background, and drag it over here like so, into this area that I'm showing you on the overhead. Once it's dragged over here, release it. I dragged it over twice. If you did what I just did, just say overwrite. Once it uploads, which will take a millisecond to upload, you can then close out of that upload files dialog. So let me walk around to make sure everybody has that piece before we go further. And if it does prompt you to overwrite things, which I think it does prompt you to overwrite the readme.md file or something, go ahead and do that. Yeah, that's it. And then click and drag it over into the drag and drop, release it. Oh, yeah, you got to be in Chrome. I'm sorry. Apologize for that. So Chrome is what's needed for that drag and drop feature. Everything else works fine. So if you did get a prompt on it, if you were in Firefox, it will tell you. Where's it work? Do what? Come around, help is needed.
Yeah, I need to be on Chrome to do that. But I can
It's
copy
a-
and paste.
Okay. It says something about not being able to upload folders. Okay, cool. Yeah, they might have a different version of Firefox. So either way, if you do need to switch browsers to do that upload, go ahead and do that real quick. Switch to the Chrome web browser. Anybody need help on that? Once you're finished, it should look like mine on the overhead. It should have the name of your site and then all the folders, and it should mimic what you just copied over, basically. You'll also still have in there, though, hello world, the the php.ini should also be in there as well. And then everything else is a Bootstrap theme. Yeah. Go back to your workspace link right there. Right there, workspace. On workspace. Right, and go to open. And as soon as that opens up, you'll be able to do a file upload. I would take my mouse and put it up in the URL, and then hit enter. And then go to file upload. There you go. And then, yep, click and drag on, make sure it works for you. And override all. And then you can close out that box there. Anybody else need help on uploading your files? Okay, so what I want you to do now that you've uploaded all your files is I want you to double click on one of the files on the left side, the index.html file is the one I want you to double click on. And what this is going to show, and let's, by the way, expand your browser back to full screen, at least the width of your browser. And what we're looking at here is the code behind your index bootstrap. I did the business casual one, and it has in here, starting with the top, it has in here some tags needed for Bootstrap to work properly. The first tag needed is a UTF-8, meaning it's going to be, that's the rendering English language. Compatibility is the next one for UX compatibility for Edge, i.e. Edge, which is Windows browser, internet browser. Next is viewport. It needs this to render properly for mobile and non-mobile devices, both. The meta name description and author is empty, but you could put your own in there, but it's just empty by default. Title, you know what that is, just basic HTML title. Will change your title that you'll do on your take home. The next few lines, 4 or 5 lines, is actually Bootstrap enabled CSS and fonts that they need. Notice all of these, the first two are local to your install, your CSS folder install. Mine uses bootstrap.min.cs, which everybody has on all bootstraps, but I use a custom CSS for the business casual that I downloaded. So I've got my business casual on yours. If you guys downloaded Grayscale, it should be a grayscale.css, I'm guessing, or if you downloaded whatever type of theme, it'll be that CSS file, right? Then notice fonts are not local. Fonts are external links to all the font types needed for this theme to work properly. Then it gives an HTML5 warning here. It says here that IE8 support of HTML5 elements and media queries. Respond.js doesn't work if the view the page via file whatever. File whatever means instead of viewing it on a web browser for HTML rendering, the file URL is viewing the file itself. Okay, that won't work in IE8. So it does have in that. Because of that, a couple, if it is IE9, other JavaScript files needed for IE9. So that's the head portion. In the body portion, you have tons of div classes that are unique to your install theme. Notice mine, my first div class is brand, business cloud. Then it has an address bar. Then I've got a nav bar, container, nav header, button, just going down, won't read them all, but got my navigation going down line 74, another container with more divs inside of that and wrappers for like slides, carousel. I've got a div tag for a table row, columns, headers, all the way down to the very bottom, which is the jQuery. On the bottom of mine, I'm line 166. Yours might be different in numbers, but you should have a jQuery line. Towards the bottom, a bootstrap line of JavaScript. And then mine ends with a carousel, which does an interval every 5 seconds of the carousel on the site. Okay, so what I want you to do is we already have our server running. It's already running now. All we need to do is go to the preview button here and go to preview running application. Once we do that, it should show up on the right side in the little box, which I don't like. So I always expand it out with the little arrow icon. So if you click the little arrow icon, the pop-up, go ahead and do that. It's now going to render it accordingly. And here's my business casual. Here's a 5-second timer that it had at the bottom of mine that will every 5 seconds render to a new image on the site. Go on down, have some more. So I want you to navigate yours real quick. So let me just walk around and see what everybody's got, how yours is looking. Make sure it's rendering properly for you and that you can see your theme that you downloaded. You're not running your project. Yep, you have to run your project every time. And then hit the little arrow to go pop out. There you go. Cool. So let's see. I want to see pop outs on everybody's browser. That'd be great. So we can kind of see everybody's bootstrap. Awesome. So, what do you guys think? Is that the quickest website you ever built in your life? Now, what's cool about it is, seriously, say you're a business. Say I'm an owner of a business. I come to you, I'm like, hey, I know you're a student RVC. Is there anything you suggest me to use to get up and going pretty quick? Like, all I want to do is get a site that's pretty fast loading. I have some static content I want to put in there. Is there something you'd recommend? Here you go. Right? Super easy. Doesn't need a lot of overhead. And if it's a static site, you're just talking about replacing content and color scheme with CSS and plugging in whatever else needed for the BootStrap. So if everybody would do this for me, with that running on your full screen, what I'd like you to do, if you go back to the Nearpod lesson, I'm going to go to the next page, which there is a little poll here on did you have any issues setting up the new C9 workspace. Responses to that would be awesome. So we should have yes, tons of issues, yes, a few issues, none at all. And we'll see, hopefully everybody had no issues. Here's some things to remember on a C9 workspace. On any workspace you set up, even outside of C9 for a website, PHP must have a couple things happening for it to work we talked about so far. One is you have to have an Apache web server running. Two is your code has to be PHP compliant if it's a PHP page, okay? Third, it can run PHP websites running Apache, can run basic HTML, your CSS stuff, your JavaScript, your jQuery, just like any other website you've played with thus far and experienced. Okay, so you did the BootStrap theme. I had you download a theme. We did that. We uploaded it. We drag and dropped it. We did that. Just remember when you do it, I suggest doing the 50% browser thing, doing file upload local files, drag them over. We learned tonight Chrome web browsers are best. I've used Firefox. I don't know, some of these must have old Firefox, but anyway, Chrome will always work on this. Let's go to the next quiz, which is really a poll. Do you have any issues uploading and testing your C9 BootStrap? Hopefully, again, no issues testing it. You just uploaded your files, tested the site to make sure it's working. And then here in a bit, after we take the quiz for the Nearpod, we're going to talk about what your take-home's all about, because you'll be doing some manipulation to your own BootStrap for your site this week. And I know you guys are hungry to get involved with that. I can already see some people as I walk around, man, you're starting to already edit stuff. you're starting to edit stuff already. Like, yeah, you're getting in there. You're doing it. I don't even have to tell you. And then, you know what? It goes back to that slide we went to earlier. It was unfettered, what was it? Didn't use unfettered. What was the word it used? Can't remember. Without provocation and without direction, you just begin editing it. It's natural, isn't it? When you have something like this that you start having in your hands, it's natural to just start playing with it, right? And start manipulating it. And so that's what you'll have. We'll talk more about that in a second, but hopefully no issues with this. Some of you might have some issues. We did have some issues with the browsers in here. It worked best in here with Chrome. So that was an issue. Trying to think of what else. Any issues by web browsers we had? You guys think of? I don't think there was there? Okay. Okay. All right, I'm going to go on. So we double checked the project. Make sure you hit the run project on C9 for it to work. Preview the running project. The one thing that's not on the slide is to do the pop-out thing to where you see the site on a new tab and then play around with it, which you did that. And what do you guys think of the look and feel of your test site tonight overall? What's your feel of it? You like it? Pretty cool? I mean, just walking around some of the ones you guys chose, all of them are good, but I can tell you really you spent a little time thinking about which one to choose, and that's going to help in getting excited, not only getting excited about it, but really wanting to develop. If you don't have a platform you love developing in, you won't develop in it. You literally, well, you will if I pay you to do it and force you to do it, but you're not going to want to do it like at midnight at night and 6 o'clock in the morning, right? This one you will. You'll be like, okay, I'm going to do that. I want to do this. Here's a quiz. It's not real difficult. It's 5 questions. If you just do your best. I'm not going to assign a grade to this, by the way. It's just to see if you know these answers. Would be awesome. And I'm going to tab away from that while you're doing it. And then we'll go and talk about the take home after you get through that quiz. Just answer it as best you can from the content we went over and the slides and the discussion. Hopefully nothing too out of the ordinary on the questions. If there is, let me know. If there's something we didn't cover, let me know that's in the questions. I think we covered everything. All right, I think, is anybody still working on the quiz? Are some people still working? How'd you guys do? Did you get at least 50%? Hopefully. Huh?
Haven't seen the result yet.
Do I now? It doesn't tell you? Okay, let me tell you what you did. I'll just tell you globally because I'm not going to be. Let's see. We got about an average here of 70%, 73% average score. Not bad. So let's go over if you want me to go over the answers for you, I'll go over them with you real quick. So let me switch gears here. It's going to be on a different screen, so you won't see it, but I'll show you what the answers, I'll tell you what the answers are here. So let me exit out of my Nearpod. And that was the last slide on the Nearpod, so let me exit out of it. Yes. And let me go to that slide. I put those on and I'll tell you the answers. We'll go over them together. All right, so question 1, let's go to the quiz. Okay, BootStrap was started by Twitter. I think the options I gave you was Twitter, was it LinkedIn, and yeah, Facebook. So Twitter's it. What year was BootStrap started? 2010. What language does BootStrap use? What is it? It was, yeah, it was created. It was, yeah, you're right. Now the language, JavaScript. So I think the options was ASP.NET, PHP or JavaScript. The language is JavaScript. And then number 4, there's only 4 questions, not 5. What else is included in a Bootstrap? I put, hopefully this was easy enough. COBOL was the first choice. C++ the third choice. And the correct one though was CSS. All right. So again, those were the 4 answers. Bootstrap 2010 is when it was officially started. It was released 2011, I think. And then started by Twitter. And then language, again, is JavaScript. And then lastly, CSS is included as well. All right, so if we'll go back to the take-home real quick. I want to go to the take-home for this week. And the way these Macs work here, by the way, and I'll have you guys do this before you leave. Everything you did tonight, by the way, is saved on your C9 site. By the way, you're not going to lose it. So you can exit out of everything else. It's going to save it for you. So the week 2 assignment, let's go to that real quick, and then I'll help you with what I expect on that. Let me unfreeze the screen here. So we talked about how Bootstrap is the most popular HTML, CSS, and JavaScript framework for developer responsive mobile site websites. We also talked about how bootstrapping is completely free to download. Tons of sources to find it. The one we use is the startbootstrap.com is one I recommend. Now you'll notice there's a Nearpod there where it says watch Nearpod. If you just want to look on the overhead, I'll kind of show you what this looks like, and you'll kind of have any questions you might have. The first part of this Nearpod was everything we already did in class. All right, everything we already did in class, the first part of it. So all the slides that we had on the in class is in here. All right. Goes through the setup process of Bootstrap. Everything we went over on that. The upload portion of Bootstrap, the difference is I included a video to help you. So it goes through a really quick video of a C9 site, a C9 work site, and I'll play just a tidbit here to show you where it starts at. So it's a whole 3 minutes and 18 seconds long. So I have little pointers and arrows to help you of how to do everything from downloading it, installing it, and copying it. So hopefully that'll help you. The same questions we had in class. Here's where it gets different as well on the exercise. I want you to this week spend some time editing your site, and some of you I know started doing on your in-class one already, but title for sure. Content, I want you to make it totally personal to you, totally 100%. So if you have images in there, bring your own images in. Slideshow, bring your own slideshow images in. Colors, bring your own colors in. Content, your own content. Some of you chose theme. We'll choose themes that are personal in nature for a personal site. Some of you might choose other themes, but regardless, make it personal to you. All right, make sense? And I want you to really put a lot of time into that, because what's going to help you is the more personal you make your site this week to yourself. And I want you to have liberty here to play with. I'd like to see you play with CSS a little bit as well, not just your HTML content, but maybe play with CSS a little bit well, changing your color scheme a little bit maybe if you want to. You can look at the Bootstrap website. They have all the examples you're going to be going over this week in your tutorials, show you how to manipulate every single piece of Bootstrap, every single piece. So if you want to add in a moving table, or you want to add in some more cool glyph icons, you'll learn about that, what those are all about. Bring your own in. I believe we talked about last week, correct me if I'm wrong, on the font awesome icons. You can use that as well if you want to, and bring those in. But once you go over the reading this week, and you'll go over every thing that you need to know about Bootstrap on manipulation, that will help you on making your site personal to you, because there'll be some things as you go through the reading that you'll be like, yeah, I want that on my page. Bookmark it, save it, however you want to do it. Personally, what I generally do when I find code or examples or something I like, I will bookmark it, or this might help you. Create a notepad document of just links of stuff you want to include in your site. And don't spend a lot of time on detailing those links. Just put the links in there as you're doing your reading. Make sense? That way, when you get through with all your reading, do your quiz, you've got a list of 10 links that you're going to click on to remind you of stuff that you really thought was cool that you would like to include or manipulate in your Bootstrap. Does that make sense? And so I'm on purpose giving you liberty to do a lot of stuff to your site this week. And hopefully after you go through the tutorial and the quiz on Bootstrap, you'll have the knowledge base to do that. Make sense? questions on that, on what I expect on your site when I look at it next week? Okay, just so you know, on the EdNet, that's something we used years ago for our CMS. Eagle, all the content for week 3 through 8 is complete. I've still yet to turn it on, so if you'll give me till end of day tomorrow, that'd be awesome. I still want to tweak some stuff. I got some Nearpods I'm not yet finished. I want to put in there. I think Nearpods are going to work well for this class. What do you guys think of it? Like it, hate it, what? No, don't care.
Good.
Not bad, right? Kind of a way to kind of, follow along, I guess, or have some type of feedback and polls, feedback that I think is kind of nice. So anyway, that's the exercise for your take home. And I believe that's the end of that one, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, that's it. So let's go back to week 2 assignment. That's completing that. After you get through, by the way, watching the Nearpod and going through all of that, there's a few quizzes and things of that nature. Watch the video. Again, you go back to the popular link you went over tonight to choose your. Now, I'm not nailing you on that, by the way. You don't have to choose a popular one. You can choose any of them within that site for template categories. I just chose a popular one as a forefront. You don't have to choose the popular one if you don't want to. Make sense? So spend your time looking at them, browse and preview them, download the one you like you did tonight, create a new workspace, and in the workspace, I put in here BootStrap. I want you to use the title I put in the Nearpod, which is, I believe, last name, your last name site or something like that, I believe. So follow the instructions in Nearpod. Do not follow the instructions here, which is just plain BootStrap. All right, so follow the instructions in Nearpod. You'll be good on that, and I'll correct the spelling on that. Upload your BootStrap to C9. Submit the URL to your BootStrap. And the one, I show you this in the video, I want you to include, for me, the preview link to your BootStrap, because remember, that's the one that's going to work even though you're not on your workspace running it. Because even though you don't have Apache running, because it's HTML5s that you're running on that site, it's going to run fine without Apache running, but I won't be able to run it if I don't have the preview link. So make sure and give me that preview link, which in the video I show you, it's the files link. In fact, let me show you real quick on the overhead what I mean by that. It's showing you in the video, but you might have already seen that. We played with it a little bit last week. The share button. So let me go over there real quick. So I showed you this in the video, but you click on the share button. The one I need is the files link. Notice it has the word preview in it. That's the one I need to look at your site. Okay, let me go back to week 2. So questions on what I'm needing for your assignment. Any questions on that? Okay, don't do the assignment, by the way, until you've done all the reading and the quiz. That's going to help. You're going to be ready for it, or not going to be ready for it if you don't do the reading first. Next, discussion. Had you heard of BootStrap before week 1? Why does BootStrap appeal to so many developers worldwide, do you think? That's the question this week to ponder and to post. And then I want you to also reply to at least 2 other people's posts during this discussion. Questions on the discussion. So questions on reading, homework, or discussion? Again, apologize for being late. Thanks for, I'm impressed, man. Like I said, when I was in college, 15 minutes was a rule. If the instructor wasn't here in 15 minutes, I'm out of there. We're done. We're out of there. No emails, no texting. Is he dead? I don't know. Who cares? Let's go on. We're going down the street. We'll be back. Maybe next week I'll be back. I don't know. So I commend you guys for hanging out and you not leaving me. Appreciate it. And then again, tomorrow, campus is closed because of employee development day. I'll be teaching 2 sessions on Hour of Code. We have faculty who are going to be doing Hour of Code tomorrow for 2 sessions, 2 Hour of Code sessions. And if you guys have never done Hour of Code, the March date this Saturday is full. April, which is the 4th Saturday of each month through May, still have some slots open. If you go to rbchourofcode.com, you can register for the Hour of Code. And all it is 1 hour of coding in a drag and drop environment. And it's of all ages that are in the room. So we have from like 6 on up to 86. Or if you'd like to help volunteer, we also need volunteers each time. So this Saturday we have an hour of code. We usually have 3 or 4 CIS students show up. I already posted it on Facebook and Twitter that we need volunteers, but you don't need to tell me or anything. Just show up Saturday morning here at 8:45. And it's for 1 hour. You're done at 10 and you're out of here. If I know though you're coming, I generally buy extra door prizes and you get to pick one. So that's a benefit of telling me beforehand. So I kind of have a number in my head of door prizes. And the door prizes are the same every time. I always give away a selfie stick, like 2 or 3 selfie sticks, and 2 or 3 chargers that you can charge your devices with. You know, and you can't ever have enough of the chargers. I know, I have 2 or 3 all the time going. So if you are interested in helping this Saturday, I think I've got 1 or 2 that have committed already. We could probably use 1 or 2 more. So if you want to swing by before you leave and let me know, yeah, I'll try to make it. That'd be awesome. And again, it's 8:45 in this room, and we'll be done right at 10. And all you do basically is walk around and help students from all ages navigate a screen of instructions, which is dragging and dropping objects, basically. It's pretty simple. And in fact, if you go to that rbchourofcode.com, it has a lot of examples of the stuff we do in the hour of code sessions. So, and you guys will probably have fun doing it anyway. So, questions, anybody, before we're done? All right. Well, we're done for the night. See everybody next week. If you have any questions or you're going to want to volunteer Saturday, come up and see me. And I did, by the way, contact Lions. Those of you that let me know last week you're interested of interning, the HR person does have your name and does have your information and when you can be contacted. So thank you for doing that. Appreciate it. Yeah.